Richter freaking Belmont may be my favorite vampire hunter in the Castlevania series. He was introduced to us on the PC Engine in the game Rondo of Blood, and that's probably where he's most popular, what he's most known for. And that game had a lot of mystique back in the day. It was this sort of shrouded in mystery type game that was only released in Japan, but has since found its way on the PlayStation 4, and it's also part of the Castlevania game on the PSP. You can play through the full game there. He also makes appearances in the Castlevania Netflix series. He's a playable character in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. He's also a playable character in Symphony of the Night. Once you beat the game forwards, backwards, and upside down, you can unlock him to play through the entire game as Richter. But he really sort of cemented his legacy in Rondo of Blood. And Rondo of Blood may be my favorite Castlevania game. I'll get around to ranking those one day, and I'll really have to do some thinking, but it's on up there. And so, I really like Richter. Richter's kind of a hothead. He's a young vampire hunter, and he uses sort of that energy and item crashes, which you see in the game. And, he's just a fun character to play as, and he's got a neat little story. And so, I've always wanted a Richter Belmont figure, and there's never been an official one that has been released that has checked all the boxes that I was looking for. I kind of want it to be that 1/12 scale size figure that scales with some of my other Castlevania figures on my Castlevania shelf. I did a video about that, so go check that out after you finish this video, of course. But I had to go the route of making a custom figure, and I was excited to do so because I thought it would be a lot of fun. When I start going down the route of making a custom figure, I try to find what body's going to work the best, because that's like 90% of the figure anyway. If you can get that, then a lot of the other stuff can usually fall into place. So I started resourcing, started doing some research, and I found this Doctor Strange figure from the Marvel Legends line. And I don't really collect a lot for Marvel Legends, so I don't really know what series this Doctor Strange figure came from. I do believe it came in a 3-pack of figures. And what I like about it is a lot of the work is done for me. It closely resembles Richter's outfit. It's the blue robes with some leather belts and some boots. And so I thought to myself, okay, I think this will work if I tweak it just a little bit. And the next thing I needed to find were some arms, because Richter's character, the outfit, doesn't have any sleeves. And I found that pretty easily. There were some loose Storm Shadow arms from the G.I. Joe Classified figure, and these arms didn't come with any hands, which actually works out pretty good because I was going to have to replace the hands anyway, and it knocked the price down a little bit too. And the next thing was the head for this figure, and I really thought this was going to be a bit more tricky. But come to find out, you do a search on eBay for 1/12 scale action figure fodder, man, you come up with a lot of things. And I found this Frank Castle head that just, again, fitted everything that I needed for a Richter Belmont figure. He's got the dark hair, he's got sort of this determined look on his face, and most notably, he has the white bandana, the white sort of wrapping around his head. So I didn't have to do anything at all to make that head work. And being that it's also a Marvel Legends figure, it fit right on the body perfectly. And so all these pieces were in place, but I did know that I was going to have to do some painting. Just a little bit, not too much. And so I put the figure in some boiling water, as you do, to make it easier to take apart. And once the figure got softened up a bit, everything came off easily. I removed the legs and painted them sort of this slate blue. And I could have gone the route of white, but I didn't really want to go that route. I thought it may be too contrasting, even though you see him with white pants. I was going for more what was on the cover of the PC Engine game art, the cover art for that game. And, that's sort of the beauty of making custom figures, is you can take some liberties, right? Make it your own, put your own spin on it. And so that's kind of what I decided to do. And I do like that subtle contrast of the slate blue, sort of grayish blue pant with the brown boots. And I did paint those boots brown as well. And so once the paint dried, I snapped everything back together and everything fit really well. The arms, I kind of had to tweak a little bit to get them to fit right in place, but there was really no issue there. And when I decided to do this figure, in my mind, I was like, I really just want to go for it. Let's pretend this was a deluxe figure that comes with a bunch of accessories. And in Rondo of Blood and all the Castlevania games, really, you have a ton of sub-weapons, a ton of things to choose from. And so let's start with the main weapon, though. Let's start with that. The whip was a bit challenging, but I kind of wanted to go for the style of whip that you see him wield in the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate game. The handle is actually a cross or a crucifix. And I was able to find these crosses at a hobby store for like $2. And the leather that you see wrapped around the handle, it's just a spool of, little leather that I kind of wrapped around it to give it some grip. And of course the chain, the length of the whip is just a cheap necklace, again at the hobby store. And the very end of the chain, I believe, is an accessory from a foot soldier from the Playmates Ninja Turtle line. And I just snapped that off and glued it. And I drilled a little bit of a hole, dremelled inside, and drilled so I could glue the end of the chain to give it that sort of Morningstar flail whip look like you see in the game. And I thought about going the route of just finding an accessory from a figure in this scale that's the Morningstar or flail. And, it was going to be a bit expensive to do that. I found some options, and it's just, I didn't want to break the bank. I was already coming out pretty good with this figure. Everything was really cheap. I think the Doctor Strange figure was like $10. The arms were $5. The head was like $6. So I wasn't really in a whole lot, and I wanted to kind of keep it at that route. So spending $15 from what I found and saw for Morningstar or flail, I was like, I think I'll pass. And as I mentioned, in the Castlevania games, you have access to a ton of sub-weapons and accessories. And one that's in all of them is the holy water. And again, the hobby shop had these little bottles that, with some water and blue food coloring, I think it looks pretty cool. It may not be exact, but again, I'm taking my own liberties here. So I got my holy water in tow. And the stopwatch, it's one of my favorite sub-weapons in the game, or the little hand watch. And so, I couldn't find a stopwatch charm. I thought maybe I could, but I did find this. It's called a portal. It's what the charm package said. And it looks good enough to work as a stopwatch. And I used some spare chain from the necklace that I bought for the whip, and it turned out great. And of course, the screen crashing, all enemy killing crucifix, which seems to never really come in handy in these games. It's always like after you've killed everything or at the end of a screen. And so, but no Vampire Hunter's complete without a crucifix. Even though his whip already has a crucifix on the handle, I thought it'd be cool to have one, kind of hanging off as an accessory. And, again, I found these little cross charms for $2-3, something like that. And I love that it looks kind of patinaed and old, and it works really well. So, now Richter has his crucifix. And of course, we all know the double-sided axe from the Castlevania games. A very powerful weapon, has that nice little arch to it. I just so happen to have the battle damaged He-Man figure that Hasbro Mattel released a couple of years ago. And this double-sided axe works perfectly for that. And that He-Man figure also came with a little dagger in its boot, which is perfect for Richter's famous little dagger tucked right into his belt in the front. And it was perfect. I didn't have to resource anything out. Those things I had already. So it really worked in my favor that I didn't have to go hunting for additional medieval accessories. And I definitely looked, and I just had a hard time finding anything that really worked. And viewers, if you know of places to get loose accessories, people that sell them or a company that does them, and that medieval sort of sword and dagger and Morningstar axe sort of thing, please let me know, because I would love to know. I would love to get a hold of those someday, just because you never know what other custom I may try to do eventually. Another little accessory I threw in there that I thought was neat is this book I have for my Constantine figure from McFarlane. And, there's a Bible in Rondo of Blood, and the item crash on that is super powerful, so I thought it was neat to kind of add that in there as an extra accessory. And one of the last little accessories that I wanted to do were some keys. Because in Rondo of Blood, there are several characters that you can find hidden throughout the game, and one of them, Maria, is an actual playable character. If you played the game, then you know that already. But then to really get 100% completion within the game, you have to find all these other characters that are locked away in a dungeon or in these secret sort of passages, and you have to find keys a lot of the time to unlock doors to get to them. And what's interesting about that is the key replaces your sub-weapon, and you have to use it like your sub-weapon once you get to the destination. And so I thought, I need some keys too, right? If I'm really going for this, that's definitely something that's part of Rondo of Blood that was introduced in that game. And I always thought that that was a neat little thing, an extra sort of side quest for you to do. And so now I have some keys for Richter to carry around to unlock prisoners or secret passages that he finds along the way in his journey. And lastly, to top it off, even though it's just briefly in the game at the beginning, I wanted a black cape for Richter to wear. I love that opening sequence when you're on the horse-driven carriage and you're whipping away your horses, making a mad dash to Dracula's castle, and you're confronted with death, and he whips his black cape off and he goes to battle right there in the rain. It's epic, and I sometimes just play through that opening scene just because I think it's so cool. It reminds me of a Hammer horror movie or something like that. But I did find this cape that was a little big. I actually thought it was going to be a bit smaller when I ordered it. I found it on Amazon. And so I sort of trimmed it down, and it looks a little weathered, you know, like he's been out in the elements. And it's fine. It may not be exactly what I was going for, but I think it works well enough. And it's only a small part of it, but I do think if I'm going for this deluxe style figure, I had to have a cape to throw on there too. And again, this is sort of an amalgamation of Richter as we've seen him in the Netflix series, in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, in the PC Engine game Rondo of Blood. And so it's kind of a mixture of all those, but with my own little spin on it as well. And so I think he looks damn cool, and I was really, really happy with how this turned out. And so, you know, maybe one day I'll attempt the Maria figure, because she's a fun character to play as in the game. She's just kind of breaks the game in a way. It makes the game super easy. But I really, really liked how this Richter turned out. It came together relatively easily, and I was kind of surprised on how easy it did come together. And so, you know, maybe my next thing will be to try to customize some more creatures from Rondo of Blood, because there's some unique enemies in that game that I think are pretty neat. Richter Belmont, vampire hunter extraordinaire, hell of a dude, maybe a little hot-headed at some times, but he's got a soft spot in his heart, I do believe. He's become probably my favorite vampire hunter, as I've said. And so, yeah, let me know, viewers, are there figures that you would like to see me attempt from the Castlevania series? I'll give it a go. Do you customize figures? Are there ones that you would like to attempt? Is there video games that, much like with Richter, have not ever released figures, but you would love to see someone take a stab at it? Definitely comment down below. I love the conversation with my viewers, and I can't thank each and every one of you that have subscribed already. I can't thank you enough for chiming in, for supporting my channel. It's really awesome. And if it's your first time here, man, it would mean a whole hell of a lot if you hit the like button, go ahead and hit subscribe. I try to post a couple videos a month, give or take, and I love to talk about movie licensed toys, movies, collectibles, video games, video game licensed toys, and a lot of customs. It's something I've got into recently. So yeah, do me a favor, subscribe and tell your friends where I'm at. And it's like I always say at the end of my videos, let's be kind as we rewind and fast forward through time. Thank you so much for stopping by 2 Day Rentals.